On this episode, we travel to Vicksburg, Mississippi, where an old bridge is caught in political limbo. Then we look at transportation planning in Lexington, Kentucky. We talk with one of the organizers of Walk to School Day in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Fayetteville is starting a new program to train school crossing guards. The mayor has taken an interest in more sidewalks and trails. The sidewalk ordinance establishes good construction standards for new sidewalks in Fayetteville. Finally, we look at little steps that form big obstacles on a pedestrian bridge in Missouri. Stay tuned. We're in Vicksburg talking with Ray Duncan, who's vice president of the Bicycle Advocacy Group of Mississippi. What is the Bicycle Advocacy Group?
The Bicycle Advocacy Group of Mississippi is a bicycle and pedestrian advocacy group. We're basically interested in encouraging projects of that nature and encouraging those kind of safety things and those kind of issues. We don't sponsor bike rides or anything, but we are involved with the Mississippi Department of Transportation and other public officials to try to get things done that will enhance the bicycle and pedestrian facilities of the state.
What are these bridges behind us, and what does that have to do with bicycles?
The bridges behind us are the interstate bridge, which is here in Vicksburg, and also the old Vicksburg bridge. The old Vicksburg bridge was built in the late 20s, close to 30, and opened then, and was purchased by Warren County. The issue with the bridge came some years ago when the bridge was closed to traffic, and the proposal was to sell the bridge. And a lot of people didn't like that idea, and nobody knew exactly what to do with it. So we proposed that it be made into a bicycle pedestrian park and crossing of the Mississippi River. So that took off. A lot of people liked that idea. Eventually, though, the politicians became a little uncertain of it. However, we did get the politicians to eventually put in an application for the Transportation Equity Act for the 21st century funding, and got that funding approved for $1.7 million to do this project. But then our local politicians decided that, no, we'll let the people vote on it. And of course, the people, not really understanding what the whole thing was, voted to put cars on it. The only problem with that, nobody really bothered to tell them, except some of us who were trying to say this, and that the bridge is too narrow. It's only 18 feet wide, and so it's unsafe for two-way traffic, and really has not much purpose if you make it into a one-way traffic bridge. So consequently, since the people voted to open it for traffic, they've just decided to keep it closed. And so now it's simply sitting there, gets painted, it gets taken care of, it's in good shape, but not used for anything at the present time.
How far up or down the Mississippi would you have to go to find another bridge where a bicycle could get across the river?
Well, you have to go down to Natchez to get across, which is about 80 miles south, and there's a crossing up from Arkansas to Mississippi, which is probably 150 miles north of us. One thing that's happening with bicycling is the Mississippi River Trail, which runs really from the headwaters of the Mississippi to New Orleans, comes through Vicksburg and crosses the Mississippi River at Natchez and goes on down to New Orleans. But the people with the Mississippi River Trail would very much like to have an access here across the Mississippi River, which would allow putting in some sort of loop for biking activities between here and Natchez, and also would allow access to some very interesting sites in Louisiana.
Where do you go from here? It can't be used for cars. What happens next?
What happens next? Well, that will be interesting to see, because it's been almost 2 years since the people voted to open it for traffic, and our politicians have, of course, not done that, and are not going to do that, it looks like. I'm pretty sure they're not. But probably another 2 years, they're going to be facing this issue at the next election. And all of them promise to see this thing done, So it's a broken promise. It's going to be a real hard thing, I think, for them to deal with in the next election. And sooner or later, I think it's going to be open for bicycles and pedestrians because nobody has any other idea what to do with it. and although in the election it was voted to open it for traffic, they had 3 issues on the ballot. One was to open it for traffic, one was to make it into a bicycle pedestrian type park, and the other was to sell it. And although we lost making it into the park, practically nobody voted for selling it. So they can't sell it. Politically, I think that would be suicide. And they can't open it for traffic. So they don't have many options left. So eventually I think we're going to get it, but I don't know how long it's going to take. Looks like a long time off.
We're in Lexington, Kentucky, talking with Doreen Bailey. What's your involvement with pedestrian issues here in the city?
Well, I'm a citizen who is a cyclist and a walker, and I am the chair of the Urban County Government's Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And what we do is we try to keep on top of issues that affect pedestrians and cyclists in terms of new development, in terms of roadway reconstruction, in terms of identifying roadway surfaces that would benefit from being resurfaced, and identifying places where there's discontinuity for the cyclist and the pedestrian. So we're interested in finding those places where the sidewalk stops and the sidewalk restarts and seeing what we can do to create more continuity. And we're looking at it from a transportation perspective, but we're also looking at it from safety and recreation perspective. So we're trying to bring in the whole gamut of those things that impact the cyclist and the pedestrian and making it a safer situation.
This road behind us, what problems would it present for peds and bikes?
Right. Well, Lexington, like so many other small cities, is incredibly growing. And so this roadway section was a rural road 5 years ago. And now it has become part of the urban area. And we have a lot of new growth and new housing development around this roadway. And eventually this roadway will be widened and they will have curb and gutter and sidewalk. But right now, we don't have the funding organized to be able to have these facilities ready before the houses are built. And so we, like so many other cities, have this disconnect between private funding to be able to build facilities for people to live in, and the public funding to be able to enhance the roadways and the sidewalks to make them more walkable for those people who do come into these neighborhoods.
Now, what sort of process does the city have for planning to do this sort of thing?
Well, Lexington, unlike many cities and governments in the state of Kentucky, has a dedicated planning process. And so every 3 to 5 years, the urban county government looks at what do we need to do to either expand the area within which we build, and how we need to zone things and how things need to be organized, so that we look at commercial issues, we look at residential issues, and we look at the transportation issues. So we have this comprehensive planning, and then we also have transportation planning, which is something, because we are a metropolitan metropolitan area as far as the federal government is concerned, we have to do this transportation planning as well. So we have this comprehensive sort of growth zoning, and we have the transportation, which includes multimodal transportation, includes non-motorized transportation like bicycles and pedestrians. The other exciting thing that Lexington is doing is we're doing greenways planning, trying to see those areas which are natural floodplains or areas that tend to get flooded where in fact maybe a house has been built, and looking at how we can create linear park systems, linear floodway protection areas that delightfully can include that multi-use trail for pedestrians, for cyclists. Lexington is this big equine country, so lots of people are looking at, well, can we put in a bridle path Or can we develop a system or a surface that would accommodate the cyclist and the walker and the horse rider? So in some parks we're looking at how we can accommodate all three. In some places we're looking at mostly at just the pedestrian and or the cyclist.
So what can we look forward to in the future? What becomes of all this once you get a plan then?
Well, part of the plan then is, the follow through and looking for the funding. We've got a pretty good system for getting funding from the state and from the federal government. We've applied for transportation enhancement funding through federal planning. The state also has a congestion management air quality fund from which we've been able to get money for staff positions, for educational outreach on encouraging people to walk, to ride the bus, to use their bike, and also to help develop situations that improve the potential for cycling and for walking. So lots of different pots of money, kind of trying to juggle everything together. But what I would like to see is a nice 6 to 10 foot multi-use trail along at least one side of this road so that people from the residential areas can hook up with the commercial areas that are less than a quarter of a mile away.
We're in Fayetteville, Arkansas, talking with Patty Sullivan, who's vice president of her local elementary school parent-teacher organization. What happened this morning?
We began National Walk to School Day here in Arkansas at our school, Root Elementary School, and several of the other elementary schools here in Fayetteville.
What happens on Walk to School Day?
Well, we ask students in the elementary schools to participate by walking to school, and we frequently ask their parents to accompany them, and if they don't typically walk to school, find out what a safe route might be and if there are particular barriers in their neighborhoods.
Yeah. What happens with those barriers? I mean, if parents discover there's a problem, what's the next step?
Well, we've been working with the National Walk to School organization, and one of the ways we're applying the Walk to School Day here in Fayetteville is at our elementary school. We've distributed a survey because we're Fayetteville's a rapidly growing community, and we're in a part of the town where there are lots of busy streets and barriers without sidewalks completed. So we distributed a survey to every student at the school and asked them, with their parents' help, to identify particular barriers. We plan to compile the surveys and present the information to the city to help them establish priorities. Our city's priority is building sidewalks around schools, but we'd like to give them some data to help them with their construction projects.
This is your first year doing it. What have you learned this year that you might do different next year?
We've learned a lot. We went into this in a fairly small way. We are the first community in Arkansas to participate, and so we didn't have a lot of people to ask about it in the area. We wanted to raise awareness of walking to school, and we wanted to identify barriers. We were hesitant about encouraging mass numbers of kids to walk to school because there are many dangerous areas in Fayetteville. It's difficult for many children to walk to school. We wanted to help the schools see that neighborhood traffic, people like me in my minivan driving to school, clutter up commutes for drivers who must drive through the area. So we were trying to just establish the seed, just plant the seed of Walk to School Day so we can work in the next year or two toward projects completing sidewalks, and then we can have large numbers of kids participating. We also had the mayor participate. We were excited about that. And a number of other city administration folks were participating. Teachers, we had teachers walking to school. It was lots of fun and a beautiful day.
We're talking with Perry Franklin, who's traffic superintendent with the city of Fayetteville. What does the traffic superintendent do?
Well, John, the traffic division here in the city of Fayetteville, our primary function is to maintain and install all MUTCD traffic control devices, which encompasses pedestrian and vehicle safety issues. So that's our primary function for the City of Fayetteville Public Works Department.
And even if you have a a signal or a sign, you might still want a crossing guard to get students across the street. What's the history of that here in Fayetteville?
Okay, John, we through phone calls and notifications from some parents in some of the elementary schools, it was discovered that really in our school system we had no uniform training program for crossing guards, and we had no uniformity in devices that they were using. So this past summer we've had a committee that's been meeting and looking at different videotapes and traffic control devices and things for crossing guards, and we've selected a videotape that the AAA Automobile Club has produced called Between the Lines. They did that in conjunction with the Michigan Department of Transportation, and we chose that video, and we chose some proper vests, reflectorized vests, and 18-inch stop paddles, and then we started going to service clubs and found a service club that would sponsor this program. So we are going to place a training video and the proper vests, the proper signage, and in every elementary and middle school, private or public, in Fayetteville, and try to get everybody on the same page so that all the crossing guards are trained how to do their job. They're all using the same vests, they're all using the same paddles, so that the motorist, when he's approaching schools, he knows what to look for.
And how's this done elsewhere in Arkansas? Did you talk with your neighboring jurisdictions, what they'd been up to?
Well, I think it's pretty much up to each school district, the budgetary funds that they have. I know that the state doesn't fund that kind of thing, and I'm sure that some school districts that have lots of money probably have a good program, but my calling around, I could really find no uniform training program in the state, so I got on the internet and started looking for information, and unfortunately there are lots of information about pedestrian issues, but not a lot of information about crossing guards and training and that sort of stuff, and had to really do a lot of looking to find 2 or 3 different videotapes that our committee could look at, and finally stumbled onto some school supply catalogs that are kind of hard to come by, that just supply devices for schools and crossing guards and those kinds of things. But we're hoping to get something going here in Fayetteville and then maybe help some other communities around here.
We're talking with Dan Cootie, who's mayor of Fayetteville. What did you do first thing this morning?
Well, I got up early and went and walked with some kids to school today.
Is this something you normally do every morning?
No, but today was walk to school day, and we really wanted to try to advance that idea for several different reasons, because it's good for the health of the school children. It's good, I think, for parents to be able to walk their kids to school if they have time. It's good for kids to be out in the weather instead of always being in an automobile going everywhere they go. And it gave me an opportunity to see what the environment is as far as sidewalks and traffic and things like that too. So it was good to get out and take a walk with the kids to go to school. I think there are a lot of good reasons why we need to support this movement.
Did you see anything that could be improved upon?
Well, of course, this being the first year and all, there could be more participation, and next year we're going to try to make it raise public awareness to try to get more people involved. Of course, I did see some areas that we need to do some serious sidewalk work, but it was a good first go around.
What plans does the city have for improving sidewalks or putting them in where they're missing?
Actually, with Chuck Rutherford, our sidewalks coordinator, who's very good, he's a good concrete guy and he's good at running his crews, we plan on doing more next year than we've been able to do in the last few years. Sidewalks and trails were both lumped into one department, and in order to do more sidewalks and more trails, we've separated those out. And hopefully we'll be able to focus on getting actual more sidewalks and trails on the ground next year than we've been able to. So all it takes is time, effort, and money. So we're working as hard as we can to get some old sidewalks replaced and new sidewalks put down where we need them. And it's a big job. We're quite behind the curve on this.
What difference will that make for the quality of life for people in Fayetteville?
Well, Fayetteville's known for its quality of life. We already have an excellent quality of life here, and what it will do is enhance that quality of life, and it'll increase pedestrian safety too. Like all cities, every now and then we'll accidentally have someone hurt or killed in an automobile pedestrian accident, and we're trying to really get to where we don't have those problems anymore. And one way to do it is to increase the number of sidewalks and multi-use trails that we have so we can separate automobile traffic from pedestrian and bicycle traffic. And that'll help a lot.
You just started as mayor after your first term is up, and voters are looking back at what you've been able to accomplish. What would you like to be able to have done in the way of pedestrian amenities here in the city?
I've only been in office now for about 9 or 10 months, and we've spent this first year basically finding out what all the problems are we inherited, and we've gotten staffed up with some really, really good people. So we've laid the groundwork for doing a lot of good, but next year is when we'll start we've gotten set up, and now next year we're going to start really turning this into reality when we start learning from where we've been, what we have to work with. We've rearranged the budget process, there was quite a bit of waste we found in the budget. We're trying to reprioritize where we can turn that waste into something productive. And one of the things we need to do is get our pedestrian situation up to where it should be.
We're talking with Chuck Rutherford, who's sidewalk administrator for the city of Fayetteville. Your new sidewalks look a little different from your old sidewalks. What happened?
Well, that is correct, John. Prior to 1996, when we passed a sidewalk ordinance in the city of Fayetteville that requires sidewalks to be built at 2% above the curb and continuous through all driveways, makes a continuous walking path for the pedestrian, just like our street is a continuous driving path for the automobile. Prior to that, sidewalks were built to the individual lot, whatever their elevation was, and typically the sidewalk was cut off at the driveway on each side, and the pedestrian had to walk at whatever cross slope or elevation that existed through that driveway. So now we have a uniform, continuous sidewalk that is much more user-friendly prior to our ordinance in 1996.
How difficult has it been to get new sidewalks to conform to your improved standards?
Well, one thing that's really helped, like I alluded to earlier, is passing an ordinance that says that everyone who is building sidewalks, be it developer, house builder, contractor, they need to be built the same in every location at 2% above the curb, continuous through the driveways. In the very beginning, it was difficult because contractors and developers and builders felt that we were infringing on their rights to maybe build the sidewalks the way they wanted to on their lot, but yet the sidewalks exist in a public right-of-way that's for public use. And one thing that has helped over time, some of the builders and contractors that were very against this in the beginning have now switched their views and are now our best advocates for continuing to require this and have it implemented in this design, because they know ahead of time every place they go, this is how they're going to have to build the sidewalks. And so they're not competing with somebody else that has a different design or are going to do it a little bit different way. It's a level playing field for everyone that's in the construction business, and so they know what is required, and the people that have started to understand it, that it is an even playing field for all, are very much on board in seeing how user-friendly the sidewalks have become because of the new standard 2% above the curb with not greater than a 2% cross slope and continuous through the driveways. We are seeing a complete turnaround from when we started in 96.
What are some of the other considerations on building sidewalks? So, for example, utility covers.
Well, again, we're doing this through the plat review process and educating architects and engineers that this is the location where the sidewalks are to be required. So manholes, light poles, fire hydrants, those kind of things need to be put in the infrastructure to where they're outside of the line of the sidewalks. When we run into cases that have been constructed prior to the new ordinance where there are those appurtenances or obstacles in the way, we always try to go around those things and get them out of the walking path of the pedestrian. And we've been somewhat successful with that. We have examples of that all over town where we've actually gone and designed the sidewalk or built the sidewalk where it goes around those things, which become a hazard for the pedestrian.
If I were to come back to Fayetteville in 10 years or 20 years, what am I going to see?
Well, what I dream of and hope will happen when you come back to Fayetteville in 10 years, we will see this design continued, these requirements to where the pedestrian facility, the sidewalks are built for the pedestrian and user-friendly for all, and following the ADA design guidelines to create the pedestrian infrastructure to be user-friendly for all. I hope we'll see that down the road 10 or 20 years in Fayetteville. And if we go back to some of our oldest neighborhoods in Fayetteville, which go back to the turn of the century, the sidewalks were constructed that way. They're basically no different than what we were asking for today. And I think the pendulum's swinging. I think we're going back in that direction.
We're in Florissant, Missouri, where a pedestrian bridge helps people get across Interstate 270. The bridge has one step on the south end and 3 steps here on the north end. The steps make it difficult for someone pushing a stroller and impossible for anyone in a wheelchair to use this bridge. This bridge was built quite a while ago, but it's been 10 years since the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed. It's about time they made some minor modifications so that everyone can use this bridge.
Visit us on the internet at www.pedestrians.org.